What are phrasal verbs? Phrasal verbs are verbs with 2 or 3 words, the main verb and then a particle. For example, I wake up at 7:30 every day. Please turn off the TV. My brother and I don't get along. We fight all the time. She came up with a good idea. Phrasal verbs are difficult because you often can't understand the meaning of each expression from the words themselves. Also, many phrasal verbs are very similar. Take up, take on, take in, take over, etc. And a number of phrasal verbs have multiple meanings. In this lesson, you're going to learn a couple different types of phrasal verbs and how each one functions in an English sentence. If you'd like to learn more than 500 phrasal verbs in a natural way by studying how they are used in conversations, come join my Phrasal Verbs in Conversation course. Click on the link in the video description for more information about that. Okay, let's look at the different types of phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs can be transitive or intransitive. And then transitive phrasal verbs can be either separable or inseparable. Let's learn what this means. We'll start with intransitive phrasal verbs. Intransitive phrasal verbs have no direct object. A direct object is the thing that receives the action of the verb. Here are some examples of intransitive phrasal verbs. She grew up in New York City. You can come over to my house after school. He's going back to Russia next month. In the video description, I'll put a link to a list of 15 intransitive phrasal verbs with sentences, so you can see more examples. Now, transitive phrasal verbs do have a direct object that receives the action of the verb. Here are some examples of transitive phrasal verbs. The direct object is in blue. You need to fill out this form to register for the course. Fill out means complete, and the direct object is this form. I'm going to cut down on fast food this year. Cut down on means reduce, and the direct object is fast food. Check out that website, it's really great. Check out means look at or go to, and the direct object is that website. Transitive phrasal verbs can be separable or inseparable. If a phrasal verb is separable, it means you can separate the two words and put the direct object in the middle if you want. But if it is inseparable, then you can't do this. You can't separate the words. Let's look at an example so you can see the difference. Turn off is a separable phrasal verb, so we can say, please turn off the TV, or please turn the TV off. We can separate the phrasal verb and put the direct object, the TV, in the middle if we want. Look after is an inseparable phrasal verb, so we can say, I'll look after your dog while you're on vacation. But we can't say, I'll look your dog after while you're on vacation. That would be incorrect. Again, in the video description, I'll put links to lots more examples of both separable and inseparable phrasal verbs, so you can learn more. But I also want to teach you an important thing about word order for separable phrasal verbs. When the direct object is the specific name of a thing or person, then it can be located after the phrasal verb or in the middle. So we can say, I threw away the old pizza, or I threw the old pizza away. However, when the direct object is a pronoun, me, you, him, her, us, them, or it, then it must go in the middle. So we can say, I threw it away, but not I threw away it. That would be incorrect. Here's an example with the person. We can say, they'll pick up John from the airport, or they'll pick John up from the airport, or they'll pick him up from the airport. All of those are correct, but we can't say, they'll pick up him from the airport. That's incorrect. If we use a pronoun like him, then it must go in the middle. So we've learned about intransitive phrasal verbs which have no direct object, like grow up. She grew up in the US. Transitive phrasal verbs which do have a direct object. For example, I took off my hat. Separable phrasal verbs which can have the direct object or the pronoun in the middle. I took my hat off, or I took it off. If we use a pronoun, then it must go in the middle and not at the end. And inseparable phrasal verbs, which must have the direct object at the end and not in the middle. For example, they're looking after our children. How can you know what kind of phrasal verb it is, whether transitive or intransitive, separable or inseparable? Well, unfortunately, there's no rule for looking at a phrasal verb and knowing what type it is. You'd have to check the dictionary. But I think the best way is just to study each phrasal verb in context with lots of examples. And that's what we do inside my Phrasal Verbs in Conversation course, which will teach you 500 phrasal verbs in a fun, fast, and effective way. I hope to see you inside the Phrasal Verbs course. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll talk to you next time.